Paramahamsa Sarupaya Hare Krishna Krishna
Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Sarupaya Hare Krishna Krishna
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
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 Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
balikan tayo. Kumara Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Paramahama. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namite Gora Karuna Swarupaya Rama Krishna Prestaya Teri. Haribol. Haribol Namaste. So, for quite a while we've been carrying on this program, this study program, and the more we learn about this science, the more we become fixed in the right direction that will be our success. The more we chant the holy names of Lord Krishna, the more we become closer to Him. To be able to understand that world of love, we must become purified from this hardness, this covering that covers our eyes, material contamination that has made us very hard and selfish. The more we chant, the more we come in contact with the Supreme Purifier, the Lord of Love, the Supreme Person, Govinda, Shyamasundar, the more we begin to appreciate how we are being loved. While we are in this world, we are all blind. And someone who really loves us, who sees our predicament, that we cannot carry on in the path that will lead us to be successful in establishing our long-lost relationship of loving service with the Supreme Person. He guides us. He protects us. So the bona fide representative of God, the saintly person, our spiritual master, the confidential loving servant of God, comes as the personification of that love. And that love is addressed towards His care for us through giving us guidance, teachings that will give us clarity and focus of what we should be meditating, what should be our experience that gives us connection with real fulfillment when we're in harmony with the love of the Supreme Person, wherein we're able to appreciate and see it. Yesterday we discussed about someone who's seeing the devotee of God, and in envy she sees that, oh, he's sitting in a big chair, people are loving him. She's not seeing that Krishna love is manifested and addressed through His loving servant who comes to this world and guide us, to teach us how to love the Supreme Person. Years back, when we were working, rendering service to our spiritual master, because his purpose is to pass on the holy names and canvas living entities who are traveling in this universe, who are seeking for relief, to be relieved with the soothing embrace of Krishna through the holy names. There's so much work. And then when a person, an individual, is not able to see that love, he sees it as a burden and not appreciate it. I was in a place wherein Srila Prabhupada, he wrote so many books for us on a contemporary language, a layman's term, so we can understand. And many of our spiritual master disciple have been working so hard to assist their spiritual master. They're editing, printing books, businessmen, disciples who earn money, and those individuals chip in to put up a center to be able to teach mantra meditation. But because it is not appreciated by someone who is not making progress towards loving the Supreme Person, who is covered by the mode of passion and lust, many were not able to see. Srila Prabhupada is passing on to printing books coming from our instructing spiritual master. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Not only that, he makes it to teach us with so many of the saintly persons who've been working with him to assist us so we can be connected with that loving world of serving Krishna. When a person is under the modes of passion and covered by material disease, that person's desire for coming in contact and to be with the spiritual master is contaminated with lust and anger. And many did not appreciate that the books, the center, it's Krishna's love for us. And we disciples during the time, our spiritual master and Krishna, they're assisting us so we can be focused in loving service towards to the Supreme Person. And time went by, and it's not appreciated. And those who appreciated it were able to experience in their heart that love. And what they experience is the happiness of associating with their spiritual master through his teachings. It's not anymore those who are immature or neophyte devotees whose goal is to be purified, to be relieved from suffering, to understand and just see Krishna. So those who were not able to appreciate that, they did not cherish or appreciated the effort, that love that is given to us during that time. So now we're here, all of you here. So when we become purified from this material conditioning, you begin to appreciate how much you're being loved by Krishna. You begin to appreciate that you're not doing anything. Your struggle for survival, to keep up with your body and you together, is under the control of Lord Krishna. He gives us air, light, the food we eat. It's all Krishna's love for us. He's our well-wisher, but we are not appreciating it fully, that we're so loved by the Supreme lovable, our eternal friend, Govinda, Lord Krishna, Shyamasundar, sweet Krishna. So, our spiritual master, through his example, through his activities, he is a teacher by example. We can see how much effort he makes it so we can experience that shelter and comfort and embrace of Krishna's love for us. But if we are not able to see that, we will not take shelter of the instruction and be guided by that love. Our focus will be a sighting of what we're doing here. It's just part of my life. I have my own life. It's just convenient for me. So the devotee who matures, it becomes his life, the end itself. Chanting is the beginning of devotional service through hearing from someone who's loving the Supreme Person. He gives us Krishna. It is the beginning, it will be the end, it will become our life. Because the holy names is Krishna, the cause of all causes. He's a person who reveals himself to us. And how does he reveal himself to us? Through his love, through his kindness, through his compassion. And that is exemplified by the pure loving servant of Lord Krishna, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. He comes to embrace us with love. Will we deny other living entities, even disciples, to hear, to come in contact with Krishna? To gauge and be the one to decide who will be hearing Srila Prabhupada. If you look closely, the work of our spiritual master, even the program, in a place where he works, it is about continuing the work of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And individuals were given opportunity to be part of that program, to be helping the spiritual master to canvas for living entities who are traveling in this universe, who are miserable, like us. This person begins to gauge, begins to decide as an entitlement that she is in a place where the spiritual master is working, and she makes decision who will not and who will be seeing and hearing Krishna. So when a person makes progress in his life or her life to experience this humbleness in his heart or in her heart, yes, I am the most fallen, and Krishna loves me unconditionally, and He loves everyone. He comes here to save the fallen. Why will not, if I want to follow my spiritual master's life, his word, I should just be simply hearing, understanding, and passing on what has been given to me, the holy names, the teachings of our spiritual master, that will guide the living entity, that will connect one's heart with the spiritual master and Krishna. we have become so cruel and hard-hearted that the opportunity for the living entity who come in contact with the spiritual master, they may not have the name of devotees, das or dasi. They're traveling in this universe, in this planet Earth, for a time being. And there's a great opportunity that they can be connected with love and be sheltered by Lord Krishna and the teachings of the spiritual master, to be under the lotus feet of the spiritual master. But because we are not experiencing and tasting that externally, we are in a position, in a situation, we think we are there. You can know a tree by its fruit. So we should gauge ourselves, not others, if we're really experiencing this connection with this love that is being given to us, that is inseparable from our being, to taste loving service to the Supreme Person. We have become so cruel, hard-hearted, to be the block, to be the divisiveness, to divide, to be the wall for Lord Chaitanya's mission. We may have devotees' names, Dasi or Das. When one makes progress in his life towards Krishna, he begins to realize and understand the sweetness, the embrace of Lord Krishna, as what is being exemplified by Gurudev. It is not an ascending method. It is a purificatory process that Krishna himself comes to us, wherein we can sing and chant his names to purify us from this material conditioning. So we should check ourselves. We may be in a situation to take advantage of this opportunity to be engaging in pleasing Krishna and loving the Supreme Person. And the fruits of our action can be gauged through our activities. Just like when Lord Jesus Christ was asked, how can we know who you are? That you're coming from God, the Father. And he tells them, if you want to do the will of the Father, you will know I'm coming from the Supreme Person. And if you want to know who my followers are, you can know a tree by its fruit. So let's put it back to us. Am I tasting that sweetness, that fruit of love of God? Or am I experiencing this hardness, this coldness of the heart, that I am not touched by the suffering of others in their separation from the protection of Lord Krishna, of the holy names? Not only that, I make it that they don't hear and listen, cannot listen to the spiritual master, to Krishna, by denying them access to his teachings. This is an experience, a covering of a person who has a cruel, hard-hearted heart. That is not a devotee. A devotee cries for the welfare of others. He feels compassion. That's why the devotee's consciousness can be gauged in the third prayer of Lord Chaitanya. He's not feeling higher. He always prays. He's always in that state. One can chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind. feeling himself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, and devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. So this person denies access to Krishna, to many of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And not only that, some of them change the teaching so they can be in control, to have followers. And they teach atheism. And they always put a carrot at the end of the stick. If you follow me, you have funds, you have wealth, you'll be confidential. You'll know about the secret of spiritual life. This is all nonsense. So we should see in ourselves, as individuals, what we really want. So I'll read this story of the Shamantaka jewel. It's Krishna's pastimes. The story of Shamantaka jewel. There was a king of the name Satyajit with the jurisdiction of Dwarkadama. He was a great devotee of the sun god, who awarded him the benediction of a jewel known as Shamantaka. Because of this Shamantaka jewel, there was a misunderstanding between King Satyajit and the Yadu dynasty. Later on, the matter was settled when Satyajit voluntarily offered Krishna, his daughter, Satyabhama, along with the jewel of Shamantaka. Not only was Satyabhama married to Krishna on account of Shamantaka jewel, but Jambavati, the daughter of Jambavan, was also married to Krishna. These two marriages took place before the appearance of Pradyumna, as described in the last chapter. That is why it's very important to understand first our transcendental nature, who we are as spirit soul, so we won't have anthropomorphic idea of God. So when Lord Krishna saved the 16,000 princesses, he expanded himself and related to all those princesses in different 16,000 palaces. Krishna is in our heart, the Paramatma. So we must have a clear understanding of what is spiritual. So we won't use our mind to enter what is beyond the capacity of our mind, our limited, tiny, teeny mind. And waste our time and people's time, which is very precious, because we're just temporary in this body, traveling in this universe. These two marriages took place before the appearance of Pradyumna, as described in the last chapter. How King Satyajit offended the Yadu dynasty, and how he later came to his senses and offered his daughter and the Shamantaka jewel to Krishna is described as follows. Since he was a great devotee of sun god, King Satyajit gradually entered into a very friendly relationship with him. The sun god was pleased with him and delivered to him an exceptional jewel known as Shamantaka. When this jewel was worn by Satyajit on a locket on his neck, he appeared exactly like the imitation of sun god. Putting on this jewel, he would enter the city of Dwarka, and people would think that the sun god has come into the city to see Krishna. They knew that Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was sometimes visited by the demigods. So while Satyajit was visiting the city of Dwarka, all the inhabitants except Krishna took him to be the sun god himself. Although King Satyajit was known to everyone, he could not recognize because of the dazzling effulgence of the Shamantaka jewel. Once mistaking him to be the sun god, some of the important citizens of Dwarka immediately went to Krishna to inform him that the sun god has arrived to see him. At the time, Krishna was playing chess. One of the important residents of Dwarka spoke thus, "My dear Narayan, You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In your plenary portion of Narayan or Vishnu, you have 4 hands with different symbols: the conch shell, the dish, the club, and the lotus flower. You're actually the owner of everything, but in spite of your being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, you have descended in Vrindavan to act as a child of Yasoda Mata, who sometimes used to tie you up with her ropes, and you are celebrated therefore by the name Damodar. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, as accepted by the citizens of Dwarka, was later on confirmed by the great Mayavadi philosophical leader Sankaracharya. By accepting the Lord as impersonal, he did not reject the Lord's personal form. He meant that everything which is formed in the material world is subjected to creation, maintenance, and annihilation. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, does not have a material form subjected to this limitation. In order to convince the less intelligent class of men who take Krishna to be an ordinary human being, Sankaracharya therefore said that God is impersonal. God has no material qualities. He is transcendental. This impersonality means that he is not a person of this material condition. He is transcendental personality without a material body. The citizens of Dwarka address Lord Krishna not only as Damodar but also as Govinda, which indicate that Krishna is very affectionate towards the cows and the calves. And just to refer to their intimate connection with Krishna, they address him as Yadunandana. He is the son of Vasudev, born of the Yadu dynasty. In this way, the citizens of Dwarka concluded that they were addressing Krishna as the supreme master of the whole universe. They addressed Krishna in many different ways, proud of being citizens of Dwarka who could see Krishna daily. When Satyajit was visiting the city of Dwarka, the citizens felt great pride to think that although Krishna was living in Dwarka like an ordinary human being, the demigods were coming to see him. Thus they informed Lord Krishna that the sun god, with his appealing bodily effulgence, was coming to see him. The citizens of Dwarka confirmed that the sun god's coming to Dwarka was not very wonderful, because people all over the universe who were searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead knew that he had appeared in the family of the Yadu dynasty, and was living in Dwarka as one of the members of that family. Thus the citizens expressed their joy on this occasion. On hearing the statement of his citizen, the all-pervasive personality of God, Krishna, simply smiled. Being pleased with the citizens of Dwarka, Krishna informed them that the person whom they described as the sun god was actually King Satyajit, who had come to visit Dwarka to show his opulence in the form of the valuable jewel obtained from the sun god. Satyajit, however, did not come to see Krishna. He was instead overwhelmed by the jewel of Shamantaka. He installed the jewel in a temple to be worshipped by the Brahmanas. He engaged for this purpose. This is an instance of less intelligent person worshipping a material thing. In Bhagavad Gita, it stated that less intelligent person, in order to get immediate result from their fruitive activities, worship the demigods who are created within this universe. The word materialist means one concerned with sense gratification of the senses within the material world. Although Krishna later asked for the Shamantaka jewel, King Satyajit did not deliver it to him. But he installed the jewel for the purpose of worship. And who would not worship the jewel? The quantity, the Shamantaka jewel was so powerful that it was producing a large quantity of gold. A quantity of gold is counted by a measurement called bara. According to Vedic formulas, 1 bara is equal to 16 pounds of gold. 1 mound equals 82 pounds. The jewel was producing about 170 pounds of gold every day. Besides that, it is learned that in the Vedic literature, in whatever part of the world this jewel is worshipped, there is no possibility of famine. Not only that, but wherever the jewel is present, there is no possibility anything inauspicious such as pestilence or disease. Lord Krishna wanted to teach the world that the best of everything should be offered to the ruling chief of the country. King Krsna was the overlord of many dynasties and happened to be the grandfather of Krishna. And Krishna asked Satyajit to present the Shamantaka jewel to King Krsna. Krishna pleaded that the best should be offered to the king, but Satyajit, being a worshipper of the demigod, had become too materialistic. Satyajit, being a worshipper of the demigod, had become too materialistic, and instead of accepting the request of Krishna, thought it wiser to worship the jewel in order to get the 170 pounds of gold every day. Materialistic persons who can achieve such huge quantities of gold every day are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, therefore, in order to show special favor, Krishna takes away great accumulation of materialistic wealth from a person and thus makes him a great devotee. But Satyajit refused to abide by the order of Krishna and did not deliver the jewel to him. After this incident, Satyajit's younger brother, in order to display the opulence of the family, took the jewel, put it on his neck, and rode on a horseback into the forest, making a show of his material opulence. While the brother of Satyajit, who was known as Prasena, was moving here and there in the forest, a big lion attacked him, killing both him and the horse on which he was riding, and took away the jewel to his cave. The news was received by the gorilla king, Jambavan, who then killed the lion in the cave and took away the jewel. Jambavan was a great devotee of the Lord since the time of Lord Ramachandra. So he did not take the valuable jewel as something very much needed. He gave it to his young son to play with as a toy. In the city where Satyajit's younger brother Prasena when his younger brother Prasena did not return from the forest with a jewel, Satyajit became very upset. He did not know that his brother had been killed by a lion and that the lion had been killed by Jambavan. He was thinking instead that because Krishna wanted the jewel and it had not been delivered to him, Krishna might have therefore taken the jewel away from Prasena by force and killed him. This idea grew into a rumor which was being spread by Satyajit in every part of Dwarka. The false rumor that Krishna had killed Prasena and had taken away the jewel was spread everywhere like wildfire. Krishna did not like to be defamed in that way, and therefore he decided he would go to the forest and find the Shamantaka jewel. Taking with him some of the inhabitants of Dwarka, along with important men of Dwarka, Krishna went to search out Prasena, the brother of Satyajit. And he found him dead, killed by the lion. And at the same time, Krishna also found the lion, which had been killed by Jambavan, who is generally called by the name Riksha. It was found that the lion had been killed by the hands of Riksha without the assistance of any weapon. Krishna and the citizens of Dwarka then found in the forest a great tunnel, and said to be the path of Riksha's house. Krishna knew the inhabitants of Dwarka would be afraid to enter the tunnel. Therefore, he asked them to remain outside. And he himself entered the dark tunnel alone to find Riksha. Jambavan. After entering the tunnel, Krishna saw that the son of Riksha, as a toy, has been given. Krishna saw that the very valuable jewel known as Shamantaka had been given to the son of Riksha as a toy. And in order to take the jewel from the child, he went there and stood before him. When the nurse who was taking care of Riksha's child saw Krishna standing before her, she was afraid, thinking that the valuable jewel might be taken away by him. She began to cry loudly out of fear. Hearing the nurse crying, Jambavan appeared on the scene in a very angry mood. Jambavan was actually a great devotee of Lord Krishna, but because he was in an angry mood, he could not recognize his master. He thought him to be an ordinary man. This brings to mind the statement in Bhagavad Gita, in which the Lord advises Arjuna to get free from anger, greed, and lust in order to rise up to the spiritual platform. Arjuna to get free from anger, greed, and lust in order to rise up to the spiritual platform. Lust, anger, and greed runs parallel in the heart and check one's progress in spiritual life. Not recognizing his master, Jambavan first challenged him to fight. There was then a great fight between Krsna and Jambavan, in which they fought like two opposing vultures. Whenever there is an eatable corpse, the vulture fights heartily over the prey. Krsna and Jambavan first of all began fighting with weapons, then with stones, then with big trees, then hand to hand, until at last they were hitting one another with their fists. And the blows were like the striking of thunderbolts. Each was expecting victory over the other. But the fighting continued for days, both in daytime and at night, without stopping. In this way, the fighting continued for 28 days. Although Jambavan was the strongest living entity of that time, practically all his joints of his body limbs became slackened and his strength reduced to practically nil after being constantly struck by the fists of Sri Krishna. Feeling very tired with perspiration all over his body, Jambavan was astonished. Who was this opponent? Who was weakening him? Jambavan was quite aware of his own superhuman bodily strength, but when he felt tired from being struck by Krishna, he could understand that Krishna was no one else but his worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This incident has a specific significance for the devotees. In the beginning, Jambavan could not understand Krishna because of his vision was obscured by material attachment. He was attached to his boy and to the greatly valuable Shamantaka jewel, which he did not want to spare for Krishna. In fact, when Krishna came there, he became angry, thinking that he had come to take away the jewel. This is the material position. Although one is very strong in body, that cannot help him understand Krishna. In a sporting attitude, Krishna wanted to engage in a mock fight with his devotee. As we have experienced from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has all the propensities and instinct of a human being. Sometimes in a sportive spirit, he wishes to fight, to make a show of bodily strength. And when so he desires, he selects one of his suitable devotees to give him that pleasure. Krishna desired this pleasure of mock fighting with Jambavan. Although Jambavan was a devotee by nature, he was without knowledge of Krishna while giving service to the Lord by his bodily strength. But as soon as Krishna was pleased by the fighting, Jambavan immediately understood that his opponent was none other than the Supreme Lord himself. The conclusion is that he could understand Krishna by his service. Krishna is sometimes satisfied by fighting also. So we can understand Lord Krishna through devotional service. Jambavan therefore said to the Lord, "My dear Lord, I can now understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the source of everyone's strength, wealth, reputation, beauty, wisdom, and renunciation." This statement of Jambavan is confirmed by the Vedanta Sutra, wherein the Supreme Lord is declared to be the source of everything. Jambavan identified Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality, Lord Vishnu. "My dear Lord, you are the creator of all the creators of these universal affairs." This statement is very instructive to the ordinary man who is amazed by the activities of a person with exceptional brain. The ordinary man is surprised to see the invention of great scientists. But the statement of Jambavan confirms that although a scientist may be a creator of so many wonderful things, Krishna is the creator of the scientists. He's not only the creator of one scientist, but billions and trillions all over the universe. Jambavan said further, you are not only creator of the creator, but you are also creator of the material elements which are manipulated by the so-called creators. Scientists utilize the physical elements. Such laws and elements are also the creation of Krishna. This is actual scientific understanding. Less intelligent men do not understand who created the brain of the scientists. They are simply satisfied by seeing the wonderful creation or invention of the scientists. Jambavan continued, my dear Lord, the time factor which combines all the physical elements is also your representative. You are the supreme time factor in which all creation takes place, is maintained and finally annihilated. And not only the physical elements and the time factor, but also the person who manipulate the ingredients and advantage of creation are part and parcel of you. The living entity is not therefore the independent creator. By studying all factors in the right perspective, one can see that you are the supreme controller and the Lord of everything. My dear Lord, I can therefore understand that you are the supreme personality of Godhead, whom I worship as Lord Ramachandra. My Lord Ramachandra wanted to construct a bridge over the ocean. I see personally how the ocean became agitated simply by the Lord's glancing over it. And when the whole ocean became agitated, the living entities like the whales, alligators, and timingila fish, all of them become perturbed. The timingila fish in the ocean can swallow big aquatics like whales in one gulp. In this way, the ocean was forced to give way and allow Ramachandra to cross to the island known as Lanka, now supposed to be Ceylon. This construction of a bridge over the ocean of Cape Comorin and Ceylon is still well known to everyone. After the construction of the bridge, a fire was set all over the kingdom of Ravana. During the fighting with Ravana, each and every part of Ravana's limb was slashed and cut into pieces by your sharp arrows. And his head fell to the face of the earth. Now I can understand that you are none other than my Lord Ramachandra. No one else has such immeasurable strength. No one else could defeat me in this way. So Jambavan was able to see Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna revealed himself to Jambavan, his great devotee. Lord Krishna became satisfied by the prayers and statement of Jambavan. And to mitigate the pains of his body, he began to smear the lotus palm of his hand all over the body of Jambavan. Jambavan at once felt relief from the fatigue of the great fight. Lord Krishna then addressed him as King Jambavan, because he and not the lion was actually the king of the forest. With his naked hand, without a weapon, Jambavan had killed the lion. Krishna informed Jambavan that he'd come to us for the Shamantaka jewel, because since the Shamantaka jewel had been stolen, his name has been defamed by less intelligent. Krishna plainly informed him that they had come there to ask him for the jewel in order to be free from the defamation. Jambavan understood the whole situation, and to satisfy the Lord, he not only immediately delivered the Shamantaka jewel, but also he brought his daughter Jambavati, who was of marriageable age, and was presented her to Lord Krishna. The episode of Jambavati's marriage with Krishna and the delivery of the jewel known as Shamantaka was finished within the mountain cave. Although the fighting between Krishna and Jambavan went on for 28 days, the inhabitants of Dwarka waited outside the tunnel for 12 days. And after that, they decided that something undesirable must have happened. They could not understand what had actually happened for certain, and being very sorry and tired, they had returned to the city of Dwarka. All the members of the family, namely the mother of Krishna, Devaki, his father Vasudev, and his chief wife Rukmini, along with other friends, relatives, and residents of the palace, became very sorry when the citizen returned home without Krishna. Because of their natural affection for Krishna, they began to call Satyajit ill names, for he was the cause of Krishna's disappearance. They went to worship the goddess Chandrabhaga, praying for the return of Krishna. The goddess was satisfied by the prayers of the citizens of Dwarka, and she immediately offered them her benediction. Simultaneously, Krishna appeared on the scene accompanied by his new wife, Jambavati. And all the inhabitants of Dwarka and relatives of Krishna became joyful. The inhabitants of Dwarka became as joyful as someone receiving a dear relative back from the dead. The inhabitants of Dwarka had concluded that Krishna had been put into great difficulties due to fighting. Therefore, they had become almost hopeless of his return. But when they saw Krishna had actually returned, not alone, but with a new wife, Jambavati, they immediately performed another celebration ceremony. King Ugrasena then called for a meeting of all important kings and chiefs. He also invited Satyajit, and Krishna explained before the whole assembly the incident of the recovery of the jewel from Jambavan. Krishna wanted to return the valuable jewel to King Satyajit. Satyajit, however, became ashamed because he had unnecessarily defamed Krishna. He accepted the jewel in his hand, but he remained silent, bending his head downwards, and without speaking anything in the assembly of kings and chiefs, he returned home with the jewel. Then he thought about how he could clear himself from the abominable action he had performed by defaming Krishna. He was conscious that he had offended Krishna very grievously, and that he had to find a remedial measure so that Krishna would again be pleased with him. King Satyajit was eager to get relief from the anxiety he had foolishly created due to being attracted by a material thing, specifically the Syamantaka jewel. Satyajit was truly afflicted by the offense he had committed towards Krishna, and he sincerely wanted to rectify it from within. Krishna gave him good intelligence, and Satyajit decided to win over Krishna both the jewel and his beautiful daughter, Satyabhama. There was no alternative for mitigating the situation, and therefore he arranged the marriage ceremony of Krishna and his beautiful daughter. He gave in charity both the jewel and his daughter to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satyabhama was so beautiful and qualified that Satyajit, in spite of being asked for the hand of Satyabhama by many princes, was waiting to find a suitable son-in-law. By the grace of Krishna, he decided to hand his daughter over to him. Lord Krishna, being pleased upon Satyajit, informed him that he did not have any need of the Syamantaka jewel. It is better to let it remain in the temple as you have kept it. He said, and every one of us will derive benefit from the jewel. Because of the jewels present in the city of Dwarka, there will be no more famine or disturbance created by pestilence or excessive heat and cold. Thus, I know Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume of the first chapter of Krishna, the Syamantaka jewel. Haribol, Namaste.
Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gura Karuna Sarupaya,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna,
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna,
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Srila Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada,
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Srila Swami
Krishna,
Ananda Paramahamsa
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Srila Swami
Krishna.
Ananda Paramahamsa Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Ora Karuna Swarupaya Hare Krishna Prestaya
Krishna